Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast, the place where poetry meets conversation. I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore. And before we get into today's topic, make sure you hit that plus sign so you don't miss an episode. Also, please subscribe to my blog, thebrownsugarcafe.blog. And if you find any value in this episode or any other episodes, make sure you leave a heartfelt review. So with that being said, let's get to it. Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. I hope that everybody is doing well. I hope this message finds you in a good space. I hope that you're accomplishing everything that you want to accomplish. Today, we have another special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Terrence. My name is Verneda Adele White, for anyone that I haven't met. I am an anti-racist speaker, strategist, model, and the founder of Black People Are America's Hot Sauce. And Black People Are America's Hot Sauce, or America's Hot Sauce for short. We are an anti-racism platform committed to Black people thriving. Our whole premise is for us as, creatives, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as families, to fully realize the economic impact of our creative and cultural contributions in this country and around the world. And of course, there's more. There's more.
Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you and everything that you're doing. I love your platform and I love your emphasis on self-care. That's one of the many things that you speak about that really sticks out to me. How did you get into the journey, or what was that moment where you realized how important and impactful self-care is?
Oh, absolutely. So you're hitting the nail right on the head, Terrence, that for within Black People Are America's Hot Sauce, I would say that there are three main tenets. So one I mentioned already, which is Black people thriving, or in this case, I'm wearing our Black Queen Thriving sweater today. And then another component is, right on Black People Are America's Hot Sauce as that economic piece. And then the third piece is self-care is the revolution. And how self-care is the revolution came about was that the actual platform for Black People Are America's Hot Sauce was created during the pandemic. And it followed an article that I published for Newsweek in the Daily Beats, calling for an end to systemic racism in corporate America. In my case, more specifically, Town and Country magazine, as well as the Hearst Corporation, which is a former client of mine. And that article kind of goes a deep dive into my experience as a consultant, experiencing systemic racism at that publication, as well as two former Black employees lent their stories to that article. Former Black employee of Town and Country proper and one at Hearst. And kind of going through that process of telling our story and being like very raw with the experiences that we had, and also giving voice to the voiceless. So there was a lot of people who came out and started raising their hand and saying, hey, this happened to me too, at Town and Country, Black and brown people who had faced discrimination. And it was an emotional journey. It was an emotional undertaking, one to research the piece, write the piece, have it published, have both the combination of accolades and backlash that came with it.
Yeah.
And so I really found that more than ever, in order to sustain this work, the work of the movement towards racial equity, one, realizing it is a marathon, it is not a sprint. And we have starts and stops. Just like now, what we're seeing 4 years later in 2024, there is a strong attack on anything related to racial equity, DEI. So now there's this retraction happening, and we have to be fit to stay the course. And so a combination of all those things really made me start thinking about like, well, what's my self-care and how I going to sustain this marathon, which is, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, culturally, in our relationship, in our environment. Like self-care is not just pampering yourself on the weekends or on a spa day. It is a
Right.
daily practice. And then when I combined it with thinking about the systems that are designed to oppress us as Black people, the systems that we live in are designed for us to do anything but thrive, to do anything other than be able to take care of ourselves. And so that is where the revolution comes. It is actually a revolutionary act for Black people to be healthy, happy, whole, thriving, content, um, being able to not only take care of ourselves, but the generations before us, the generations after us, and to be whole, to have our families whole. So that is where self care is a revolution comes from, in my perspective. And the last thing I'll close with that is once I started talking about self care as a revolution, I did get a couple people who were like, "Oh, Audre Lorde," and that's when I got a chance to deep dive into that literature, which only for me was affirmation.
Right.
When I saw that there were those who had come before me who were talking about the revolutionary impact of self care, it was affirmation for the concept I had developed.
You spoke on something earlier that I often ask people, how has self care been from you compared to during the pandemic and now after?
Ooh, interesting question. So for me, so I spent the majority of the pandemic in New York City. Shout out to Brooklyn, which has been my home for almost 2 decades. I definitely feel like I call myself a New Yorker at this point. And I think that connection, there's probably a couple concepts that come to mind. Like self-care in the pandemic was connection because obviously there was a lot of isolation in the
Yeah.
pandemic. It also came in the form of physical health. So getting outside was super important. Like even when like we weren't really supposed to be outside. So but as soon as we could get outside a little bit, it was like get your jog on, get some exercise on,
Yeah.
take a
Yeah.
walk. Like you have to
And I'm
I
always
had
seeing
to
you walk.
go
Yeah.
outside every day. And like when the pandemic
Yes.
started and it was like you went in the house on Friday and didn't come back out till Monday, like that could only sustain us. That wasn't sustainable. So, like, getting outside, making connections, which is why, like, how you and I met, Terrence, like Clubhouse, that ended up
Yes.
being such a stronghold because it was an opportunity to connect, even if it was digital. And then we had opportunities as time went on to take the digital into real life. And so those were kind of really key pieces, like finding ways to connect, getting outside. Loved my outdoor space. Picking up habits that you don't have. I started a cooking show during the pandemic. I was gardening in the backyard, things that I didn't necessarily have time to do. And it also gave me space to write. That was real big. So to the point of doing things every day for a year, my challenge for myself in 2021 was to write every day in 2021 for at least like uh, 20 to 30 minutes every day. And it was a push to do
Yeah.
so. So fast forward to today, I do still have some of those same habits. I do go outside every day. Every day. Like it's very, very, very rare that I don't get outside, even if this is for a few minutes. There's something about the elements hitting your skin, whether that's
Yeah.
wind, rain, sun, and just connecting and remembering like I'm alive and well. Shout out to Janae Aiko, that we have life in us. And then it's connected with family. I'm getting a chance to spend some extra time upstate with my folks right now, embracing the next phase of life with aging parents. That's a whole nother conversation. And it's mental health. I think that's another key piece that I'm looking for more of our community and of Black people are America's hot sauce when we talk about self care as a revolution to break down what feels like century old stigma in the Black community around addressing our mental health. And it's amazing to see we definitely have started making progress.
Yeah.
There's a lot more conversation and a lot more normalizing of how everybody can benefit from having a therapist. I don't care if you feel like you got it all together. Everybody can benefit from having not just a therapist, but a great therapist who is
Right.
thoughtful about the type of therapy that you're engaged in. Support groups are amazing. Having some type of outlet, whether that's creative or community based, but the mental health is a big piece to getting us to where we can go with our community.
I love something that you're doing. In addition to this, you started a go live challenge. You're on day 100 and something. By the time this airs, it'll be further along. But during those talks, and you touched on it here as well, you talk about community, talk about finding your voice, you talk about finding people to connect with. And even when we connected on Clubhouse, it was, I can't even remember the room, but it might have been America's Hot Sauce.
Mm. We had
And
our club, America's Hot
yeah.
Sauce.
And then you had the journaling on Sundays. I might have made it to one of those.
Oh, Chanel. I
Yeah.
know Chanel Gabriel.
The writing uh, journal part is important as well. I used to journal a long, long time ago, and I said I would get back into it. Seems like I'm always having these conversations that remind me that I should get back into it. But community and finding people to connect with, you mentioned that's also a part of self care. When we were speaking earlier in the pre-show, you said that you were taking America's hot sauce into another direction, dealing with community. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So it's interesting how a lot of times the world, your universe, your tribe will push you forward. So the precipice to me actually coming onto Clubhouse, this was like back when you had to be invited and everybody was like, "Didn't you get invited on the Clubhouse?" It was because my article had just dropped. The one that I mentioned, it's a two-time award-winning article in the Daily Beast. And out of that, it was like, we have to continue this conversation. And more specifically, why it's America's hot sauce, because Black people are America's hot sauce, because part of the article dives into the historic exploitation of our Black star power, fashion, style, music, innovation, technology, all of these contributions that Black people have made that are often exploited by white brands to be cool, to be relevant, to sell more products and services, but they're not actually invested in us. And so, um, we started out with conversations. We started out with conversations like, can Black people trust HR in corporate America? And what are some like practical tips to position yourself to thrive in those spaces? We started having conversations around community, putting together panels of all Black husbands who are all happily married to Black women, just speaking to the benefits of creating healthy, whole, thriving Black families, something that like we don't have enough narrative and content around. Things of that what were happening in America's Hot Sauce Club. And then people started saying, yo, I love this phrase. Like, where's the merch? Like, where's the thing that I can
Yeah.
wear to rock to represent? And that is part of my background. Shout out to Cornell University. My undergraduate degree is in textile and apparel management. I've always been in fashion, the business side of fashion. It's not my first merch collection. And so I said, okay. So the first thing that we got that really took off was our Black People Are America's Hot Sauce tote bag. And that's still doing really, really well. I showed you the Black Queen Thriving. We have our self care is the Revolution hoodie. And from there, it started continuing to build. So it was like, okay, we're having these conversations, and now there's merch that people can buy and tap in with. But then I started thinking, and again, and having feedback, everybody needs community and everyone's looking for resources. So how can Black people, our America's hot sauce, start to become a resource where we can really build community and have people come together, whether they're in creative spaces, if they're in corporate spaces, if they are building out their personal lives, and be able to know that we deserve it, that thriving is our birthright. So much of the work to engage at a level, at the capacity that we are capable of, begins with our mindset. And that is why, the systems that we live in, particularly in the United States, are designed for Black people not to think. They are designed for Black people to be otherwise incapacitated, whether that's sick, inebriated, of some kind. and or incarcerated, something that limits
Yeah.
your capacity to be your full self. So as we start to strip that away, then we see more people shining, more people going for it. Like it's my vision is to positively impact 100 million Black people across the diaspora to know who we are and to learn to love ourselves because self love begets self care. When you begin to take care of yourself, then you have the opportunity to actually peel back the layers of the onion to address your traumas, to release your trauma. And when we can do that, we can move into a space of transformation, which leads to self actualization. And that is what Black people deserve. Black people deserve self actualization. But we have to be able to see it for ourselves first to even to take the first step in that direction. And that's what I hope to bring people together around with Black people are America's hot zone.
Whew. Yeah, that was a that was a mouthful. Yeah, that's real good. I often have the conversations, and especially with my latest book, Pain is Not on the Paintbrush, about how seeing positive stories, hearing positive stories, it means a lot because you have different things out there that are showing, and some people believe like that's all we are. Michael Jamal Warner and two of his friends, they have a podcast now, Not All Hood. The first two
Okay.
episodes were really good. They were really thought provoking, and I'm looking forward to.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what they do with the next couple of episodes because this same conversation we're having, they're trying to share positive Black stories and ensure that we aren't just one thing. And I think that's very important for us to see for ourselves, and not just us, but for other ethnicities to see as well. We're not just these negative things that are portrayed on television, that are portrayed in certain fashions. We are thriving. We are positive people. We are loving people. Our men love our women. We're husbands, fathers, brothers, cousins, nephews, grandsons, and we do love each other. So I
Yeah.
think what you're doing is very, very important.
And what I love, love, love that's happening right now is like so many peers in the anti racist space. I love there's just like anything else, there's so many facets to how do we do anti racism work. For me, I'm particularly in the equity space, and I'm also very much in the like Black people thriving, community building, self care space. But then there's like some of my favorite content creators, like Kelly Renee or Keith Boykin, who are like just shining a light on the historical context of when Black people have been at the creation of something, but the credit went to a white person. And there's so many examples like what's happening right now with the whiskey brand, the bourbon brand, Uncle Nearest. And uh, the founder, Fawn, has essentially taken the historical context of Nearest Green, a Black man who actually taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey. And we all know the name Jack Daniels and the billion-dollar brand that has become over a century. But who's heard of Nearest Green? And
Yeah.
so for Uncle Nearest as a spirits brand to now have a billion-dollar valuation and to bring to light that hot sauce because who was actually behind the success of a Jack Daniels, that is such a it is so heartwarming because those are the stories that we never learned growing up. And without that, we are often relegated to the thought that our contributions as Black people, particularly in this country, are very limited and very narrow. And that's not true. We just haven't been properly credited.
I was reading the other day about that $1 billion. I'm like, wow, look at Uncle Nearest.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
interesting.
'cause first of all, it's excellent. I'm like, if you
Yeah,
haven't
I've
tried it
tried it. Yeah, it's
and you like
smoother.
spirits, it is
Yeah,
smooth. I was like,
yeah,
I am not a brown liquor but Uncle Nearest, they've created something
yeah.
special. And that's a perfect example when we talk about Black people are America's hot sauce, particularly from a historical. So I just love everyone who are bringing those stories to light. There are folks in the space who are going head on, um, deconstructing racism in different spaces. There are those who are turning their attention on, like, how do we thrive financially? How do we thrive with our physical health? And like, shout out to Juice and Toya, like some of my favorite like Black YouTubers who are just like focused on getting
Yeah.
Black people to work out and to and like that is all revolution.
Speaking of merchandise, we talked a little bit about your merch, and I saw that you were a vendor at the Hue Affair. How was that experience?
Love that, love that. No, thank you for asking about that. So yes, Hua Fair NYC. It took place this year on May 18th, 2024. Definitely have to shout out Y Lori Taylor. Definitely have to shout out Nika, the team behind Hue. And Hue is a collective of entrepreneurs of Black owned businesses, predominantly Black women owned businesses that they bring in for this retail event. And it was everything. It was everything from merch, like apparel, to I saw businesses in the hair in the beauty space. There were businesses there in food. There were
Oh
businesses
wow.
there in children's toys. Like all, I mean, there really was
Yeah.
an eclectic group. And what really stood out for me was that was our first, like, in-person vendor event of the
Yeah.
year. Definitely got the ball rolling, and what's so amazing when you get to interact with people face to face, you get the real-time reaction. And so, just being able to capture people's response to Black People Are America's Hot Sauce to the merch, gotta give a shout out to another Clubhouse fan, Vagani, came through, catch these compliments, and interviewed folks, asking them what's their hot sauce. And that too, because truth be told, my vision before we're out, summer is out of 2024, we're going to be holding our own virtual event around asking the question, what's your hot sauce? And building off of that and having people think about what is the thing that makes you you? What is the thing that is your gift, your talent, your contribution? What is the thing that you do that no one else can do like you? And it was just really amazing to have people react to like, "Oh, I gotta think about that," or no one had ever asked me that before. And but just to see the joy, just like the Black joy of people walking away from our booth, both men and women, feeling more elevated than what they came, because they had a chance to, just think about elevating themselves, to speak positively about themselves. And of course, this was all walks of life, because we are not monolithic. So, it definitely added a special component to the day, just asking that question, "What's your hot sauce?"
Congratulations. Congratulations. The ball is rolling.
It is. I'm excited. I'm excited. So as I said, it's a push.
Yeah.
It pushes me out of my comfort zone. So to your point about going live on Instagram every day for the next year, 366 days since it's a leap year. It is a step outside of my comfort zone. It is practicing consistency. It's practicing showing up. It's practicing visibility. It's developing a habit, because early on it was like, ooh, like I gotta rev myself up to do this thing.
Yeah.
And now I look forward to it. I'm excited about it. Um, I feel I have let go of like, what does the Instagram algorithm say? Well, I'm gonna have to worry about that later. Because right now we're just building the muscle, because I know I'm a speaker. I know I'm a personality, and to um, to lead a revolution, kind of you got to be willing to show up and show up consistently.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just like practicing that muscle, and even with my modeling. I mean, modeling is um, a long time coming as a pursuit, and it's a part of that muscle of visibility, of shine, allowing your light to shine. Because I think too many of us, even with well meaning families and friends, we often get the message that we're doing too much, that our ideas are unrealistic, that our targets are too high, that our expectations are too high, that we need to tone it down. And I say, shine brighter. It's up for us to shine brighter. Don't
Yeah.
ever, ever, ever dim your light in order for someone else to feel better about themselves.
That is so true. I've always been taught that just growing up. Just don't ever dim your light for somebody else ever, no matter what. And I love that about you, and I love how you say that on your lives. We all have a light, and make sure that you shine that light. So I appreciate your consistency with that and showing up and sharing your thoughts. And one of the things, well, I'll get to that later. You touched on the modeling. So you just, well, not just, but you see the modeling contract?
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty recent. So
Yeah.
3 months.
Congratulations. How does it feel?
It's
It's
awesome. It's awesome. So with that, so shining your light, allowing your light to shine, pushing past negative thoughts. There's two things that I would say about this. One, I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of work on myself. I want to acknowledge that because I also recognize sometimes people see others moving or growing, and then it's just like maybe a sense of like, oh, this is just that's just how that person is, or that's just how it just happens naturally for them. There's an extent to which, like, yes, I'm an outgoing person, but I have internalized negative self thoughts and takes, like many of us, and had to
yeah.
work through them, had to work to get past them. So for me, with the modeling, uh, dating myself, if anybody remembers Model Search America, I was a kid and it came to my city and I got to the second round and I was like, yes, I came home like, Dad, I'm gonna be on Model Search America. Like, I gotta go to the next round. And my dad was not happy.
Oh yeah.
Well meaning, love you, Dad. Well meaning. But he literally said the words like, you're not a model. And just crushed my little preteen heart. And I never pursued it after that. And then whenever I tried to pursue it in some way, shape, or form, it was just like I couldn't get over it. I was like stumbling over
Yeah.
my own 2 feet, just like nervous and just didn't believe in myself. So it's taken years to rebuild confidence and then to come to understand that, okay, I'm an adult and I get to reparent myself from those narratives. And my hope in talking about Shine Brighter, because I believe that, well, shout out also to Natasha Graziano, who I first heard that from. But I was like, yeah, there's something into this piece around Shine Brighter.
Yeah.
I've been in relationships with boyfriends who have told me I'm doing too much. I need to tone it down. That I have expressed like these are part of my visions to modeling, and it's just like you're the partner that you're meant to be with, I believe, will be your biggest champion.
That's
Just
true.
like I'm your biggest champion, my partner, my husband is my biggest champion. And I think that's required for to sustain the course because anything that we want to pursue of value, it's not easy. It's a journey. It goes up, it goes down. And just like we were talking about, it's all a marathon. Life is a marathon. There's no sprint in life. So you got to surround yourself with people who are going to help you sustain that longevity of the marathon. And so yeah, shout out to ITS Models and Talent Management. That was my first agency, and I'm excited because the
Yeah.
plan is to do more. There's more agencies to come. I am in the process of auditioning for national, regional, international campaigns, and but I love being on the runway. That's
Yeah.
definitely my favorite. That's definitely my favorite. Shout out to the and I think last thing I hope that when I talk about positively impacting 100 million Black people, because I do believe in the ripple effect. There will be those that I cannot reach, but someone I reach can reach that person. That having examples of pursuing our dreams, even once I'm not 25, being able to really, my vision is to change the game in modeling for women over 30, which is, modeling can be a very ageist industry.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think I think it's improving, just like modeling is improving in terms of, body image
Oh yeah.
and size and age and race. And, there is movement in that way that, that it will just be a glimpse for someone else to believe that they can. Because it's like, again, I first had to access the belief. that this is available to me. If I show up, take the action, don't cut corners. I talked about that on IG
Yeah,
Live a
yeah.
couple of days ago.
Yes, you
Don't
did.
cut corners, but like show up and do the work, hone your craft, surround yourself with good people, get mentorship, get coaching. I have all those things. So I'm like, I've done a lot of work on myself on top of the therapy, on top of the support group. Um, and the last piece, I don't share this always, but my first apparel brand came after my family's experience with Hurricane Katrina. And in that same year, I lost my closest cousin to AIDS, my cousin Wesley. And he was so talented, like this really, really amazing talented, like theater actor. And there's so much of his life that did not get to be lived. It's we were both 22 years old when he died. And so I do still think of him often in recognizing that there's a reason why I'm here, this life to be lived, and I want to live it.
Yeah,
So it's just I've just been driven to get access support. And not everybody has the same drive, but sometimes you just need to hear that it's possible to access the support system, to create the support system that would allow me to uh, now pursue this journey years later when I previously spent all my time behind the scenes. It's one of the reasons I'm
yeah.
an executive producer. I'm an executive producer because I put myself behind the scenes because I was too afraid to put myself up front as a talent. And now it's time to shine brighter.
You are definitely leading by example. You are definitely inspiring. I love it. When I connected with you, I can tell that you were into fashion and over the well, it has been years. Over the years, yeah, I realized that that this story you shared just now, like this was a life dream for you, and you just pushed it away and being in the background. It's amazing how when we talk to people, we find out these things is like, oh wow, because some people actually like being behind the scenes, and that's all they want to do, and that's fine. But to hear that you had a deeper passion and desire, and now that you're accomplishing it, it's just, I mean, your face even lights up differently when you talk about it. And so I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy for you. I'm looking forward to the things that this is going to bring, the doors that are going to open.
Well, no, thank you, Terrence, because as we were kind of saying in the pre-show, like you have been part of that journey. You, Alicia, shout out to Coach Lee. Y'all, if you don't know, I mean, Terrence and Coach Lee showed up week after week, supporting America's Hot Sauce, supporting our club, supporting our Thursday morning room, setting goals. Like I was setting goals with y'all.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that helped move us forward. And then of course the writing, because y'all know how modest Terrence P. Elmore is. Y'all better get in here with these written words. All things that of an inspiration. So I know we're also very aligned with the idea of self-care. It's like you open the book and it starts talking about how to start healing. Pain is not our only paintbrush. And then you open the page, how to start healing. And it's like all the pieces work together.
yeah,
I don't know without connecting with people like yourself and Coach Lee, would I be where I am now? Because it's a journey, and there is a quote that says the difference of who we are a year from now or 5 years ago. The difference is a combination of the books we read and the people that we. So that's why I go back to the mindset piece. That my if they say like kind of dream community member in Black People Are America's Hot Sauce, I think it's really working with us who know and believe there is something bigger for us, but perhaps we haven't quite accessed it or don't know how to get there or haven't identified the pathway forward, but we know that it's there. You know that there's more for you in life.
oh yeah,
And you may not be able to see to the end of the tunnel, but you have that feeling. come into Black People Are America's Hot Sauce to get that push to just look at daily habits, look at your morning routine, goal setting. I have now upped my game from writing my goals once a day to I write my goals first thing in the morning and I write my goals again before I go to sleep at night. So it's a part of the subconscious.
I love it.
Uh, and it's belief. It really, really, really is belief. It is the difference from being like, one day when I win the lottery to being like, well, as I create the foundation for my multiple 7, 8, 9, 10-figure business, and to say that with belief,
Yeah.
it's not, wealth is not going to be an accident for me, and wealth is not an accident for any of us, but it does start with belief.
There is something that you've said a long time ago, and it always sticks out to me, and I find myself sharing it with people just out of nowhere. One day you said, be encouraged, and don't only be encouraged, but be encouraged. I'm always thinking about that. Where did you get that from? And how important is it for you to make sure that whoever's hearing your voice is being encouraged and being encouraged?
I love that. I love that. I do remember that. I'm like, shut up again. So much magic came out of Clubhouse and being on those stages. I don't remember the context of the conversation in that moment, but I do remember the thought that sparked the thought, that there is one thing to be encouraged, one word, as we often talk, encouraging yourself, encouraging one another to pursue or to jump or to climb towards whatever it is that is in your vision. But the bigger thing in terms of I guess I would say that as the second step behind belief. Because first we have to believe and then we have to take action. And a lot of times the action taking towards fulfilling who we are, it comes with having the courage to take
Yeah.
that action. So to go from being encouraged, which can be tied to belief, to being encouraged, which is tied to being in action. So to be encouraged, and I think about that often too, because um, this journey for me in the anti-racism space, this has started with speaking up where I had faced discrimination in corporate America, and then it was like the courage to do that. Not gonna lie. I mean, I remember it's not that long ago that a Black person is speaking up in any way, shape, or form, especially against like one of the most powerful
Yeah.
white-owned media companies in the world. I wouldn't have lived to see it. Wouldn't have been, it's like you spoke up about your check being wrong and you was dead the next day.
Yeah.
You spoke up about your child being abused and then like your life was ended. And so there was a fear that came with it. And I'm so grateful that I took the shot because it gave me a new level of courage to speak up. Shoot, I've gotten kicked out of spaces on Clubhouse because I
Yeah.
speak up.
Yeah.
I will speak up. And it's important to me if that's like part of my calling to speak up to give voice to the voiceless or for those who feel that they can't speak up and to just to be part of that journey for them to be able to find their own voice and to speak their truth. So being encouraged, it's action, but I think that goes into being able to exercise your voice and to do it unapologetically and to have the audacity because it does still have fear. I'll be honest. I actually had a current employee, Black employee of Hearst reach out to me not that long ago, just like in the last like 6 months, expressing some concerns about things that were happening at the corporation. And 4 years later, there's still, discrimination happening, racial inequities happening at the organization. And it's like they wanted to speak up, but they didn't. They were like reaching out for help, but at the same time were like, leave me out of it and I'm like, well, I can't really move forward without information.
Yeah.
Right. And so there is still a fear for many Black people that if I speak up, I'll be blackballed. I will lose opportunity. It might cause harm to my family. And I don't deny that those are all real things. I take it as a personal calling to be willing to take those risks. And I would say to an extent, they're calculated risks, but they're still risks.
Yeah, yeah.
I had mentors who were like, no, you can't do that. Like, don't write that article. They're not going to hire you again. I don't want to work for them. So I'm good in that respect. But it's being a lot of people. The other two black persons in the article spoke on the condition of anonymity. Again, out of the fear of it
Yeah,
having a negative impact on their career. I think for me, being an entrepreneur, I feel more flexibility. I happily work with clients, but I'm not looking for like a full time corporate trajectory.
right.
Um, and so I perhaps that's part of why I feel more flexibility. I do feel the support. I do have a support network. And I think again, I go back to that. That's incredibly important if you are going to be in this space. And that includes, shout out to like so many, I talked about peers earlier, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about like Black LinkedIn is thriving, like that whole community. Shout out to Ashanti and Martin and Mrs. Tish. And like, it was just like, just having the constant uplift of
Yeah.
leaders in the anti-racism space that are like, Queen, we are with you. Um, let's collaborate, let's build. And obviously, if we want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, we go together.
Before I let you get out of here, one thing about Vernita that nobody knows that you wish more people would know.
Oh, that's a good question, sir. Um, hmm. Ooh, how do I want to answer that? What if people don't know that? Okay, so something that I wish more people knew about me is that I am fiercely committed to continuing to developing and working through my missteps, hurt, offenses. I think that the early part of my career, particularly before I started really like working on myself, which is a whole nother conversation around young people and these online conversations and distractions, is that, I mean, there is a certain degree that when you're just a young person, you don't have a lot of life experience, and
Yeah.
there's things that kind of just take you wherever the wind blows. But for those that hurt or offended or stepped upon on the way, um, just know that it has been a journey. It is a journey that I'm committed to, continuing to be in self improvement, to make amends, to become a better person so that I can fully realize the contribution that I think God has put on my heart to put on the world, and then be able to in turn not only make amends or atone for the past, but to be able to help others see the light for their future. I do believe that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And, sometimes we have experiences where we're like, oh, I wish this had happened different. But I can't really go back and regret or change or wish that something happened different. All I can do is like take that experience and make sure that it moves forward in a positive light, and that it will be part of a collective contribution that benefits both the people from my past as well as those that I encounter in the future.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
That was a good question. I never got that one
that
before.
was a good answer. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming on. Let the people know how they can get in contact with you, how they can book you, how they can purchase your merch. Anything else you want to share, just go ahead.
I love that. Thank you again for having me. Shout out to Brown Sugar Cafe. This was awesome. Thank you, Terrence, the podcast community. Thank you for having me. For anybody that I haven't met, my name is Verneda Adele. I'm your anti-racism speaker and strategist, as well as consultant, events coordinator, and model. You can catch me on all platforms at Verneda Adele. That's 2 A's in the middle. The merch is at americashotsauce.club, like Clubhouse, americashotsauce.club. And definitely, we are here for bookings, and you can hit me up. Just DM me on IG at Verneda Adele, and we'll make sure to get back in touch with you.
Okay, everybody, you heard it. Hit Verneda up. Thank you again for your time. And to my listeners, remember, keep pushing forward. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Terrence B. Elmore, and this is the place where poetry meets conversation. Hit that follow button and turn on your notifications so you won't miss an episode. Check out my blog, thebrownsugarcafe.blog. Also connect with me on Instagram at The Brown Sugar Cafe. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, remember, keep pushing forward.